first, I'm gonna tear your lips out. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
We don't like this, Ren.
I'm gonna tear your arms out of the sockets. I'm gonna hit you, and you're gonna fall.
So this is a scene that came out of a 90s television show for children. That may be hard to believe, but then again, a lot of the scenes that came out of the imagery was lodged deep in my memory. Like the walls of tears that welled up and were ejected out of Stimpy's eyes in this episode called The Little Giant, or the nerve endings that were excruciatingly plucked out of Ren's gum sockets, and of course every gruesome yet painterly extreme close-up that became a staple of the show, and a few that followed. Along with The Simpsons, Ren and Stimpy was a seminal cartoon of the animation renaissance that hit TV in the early 1990s. But whereas The Simpsons was focused on sharp, satirical writing, Ren and Stimpy and its creator, John Kricfalusi, were obsessed with unique... Kricfalusi was coming from a notorious dark age in commercial animation in which the production of shows was fragmented and outsourced overseas to places like Taiwan and the Philippines. Plot lines were simple and cliché, and facial expressions were relegated to happy, sad, and confused, and that's about it.
Well, there's a million versions of happy and sad and perplexed, and then there's all these other kinds of emotions that don't have labels. But you can draw them. I urge my artists all the time to never draw an expression that they've drawn before. I say, you're not allowed.
Kricfalusi found his sensibility apprenticing and working for Ralph Bashki, an animation legend who was producing some of the only interesting commercial work of the 1970s. He married the surreal, often disturbing feel of Bashki stuff with the dense, energetic style of Bob Clampett cartoons of the 1930s and 40s. Like Clampett, Kricfalusi wanted Ren and Stimpy to be filled with a new idea every second. I mean, just take a look at these handful of frames from what's probably the best episode of the series, Stimpy's Invention. Every frame is a completely new drawing. As Kricfalusi once said of Clampett, it doesn't even look like it animates. That's what Kricfalusi and his team were after with Ren and Stimpy, two characters that actually got under your skin, two characters that were so unique and dense in their movement and speech that you had to see a soul in them, however twisted that soul was. And this quality has to be what makes the show so disturbing, too. Every slimy, gunky, sweaty, hairy ooze had an unnerving reality. And the show played on anxieties about bodily fluids at a time when the United States was at the height of its fears about the AIDS epidemic.
I believe that they should have separate hospitals so that the people that have AIDS can go in there and not be in regular hospitals with other people.
But kids loved Ren and Stimpy. It had higher ratings in its first year than fellow Nicktoons, Doug, and Rugrats combined. The creators maintained that they were on the kids' side, spoon-fed morals in school, at home, and on just about every children's show, animated or not. Ren and Stimpy offered lesson-free, zany, gross, ridiculous humor, what Kricfalusi believed was the point of cartoons anyway, an escape. Parents groups protested the show, but the audience had spoken. And indeed, in that first year, 35% of the people who watched Ren and Stimpy were over 18 years old. MTV started rerunning the first season at 7 p.m. instead of 11 a.m. Viewing parties were arranged at college campuses, and for good reason. Like the Adult Swim cartoons that are in many ways its spawn, Ren and Stimpy mixed absurd, character-driven action with sly parodies of earlier cartoons, satirical and sometimes treasonous gags like when Powdered Toast Man burned the Bill of Rights and the Constitution to keep warm, sexual innuendo that was off the charts, and just genuinely terrifying moments.
Call the police.
Ren and Stimpy didn't hold back on the insanity of its characters. A number of times, Ren goes completely psychotic, and the honesty in Kricfalusi's voice acting, coupled with the manic animation, including glaring abstract backgrounds and sound effects, is enough to pull the viewer into the cartoon and into that palpable distress.
I'm hurting.
The creators of Ren and Stimpy had a healthy disdain for the way cartoons had aggressively commercialized and commodified childhood, with merchandise as simple as a log.
Yes, log.
And But I don't think Kricfalusi's ultimate goal was to make something for adults. I think he wanted to create a show for kids to marvel at, something that yanked your attention the way the old Clampett cartoons did, something as dark and seedy as the original fairy tales, but uproariously funny and inventive in every frame.